Hello everyone. Now we're gonna go into chapter 3. Okay, we're gonna go open the PowerPoint presentation. So I hope you've been keeping up. So this is chapter 3. So it's week 3, I believe. Yeah, there are 8 weeks of school, and then we'll figure out what to do with the tests and all that. Okay, let's start. So, again, you remember last time there are about 200 different types of cells, and there are trillions and trillions of cells that makes up your body. Now, all of them work together again to form, to contribute to homeostasis in your body. Okay, despite all the differences, there are things in the cells that are very similar. So we're going to learn all those in this chapter. Okay. So some cells are round, flat. This is a nerve cell, muscle cell, skin cells. They all have very similar characteristics, even though they have different shape. So again, shape just dictates its function. Okay, first thing we're going to learn is the cell membrane. So cell membrane is the outside of the cell. If you look at the cell, it's the outside of the cell. Now, microscopically, if you take apart the cell, this cell membrane is called phospholipid bilayer. So it's got 2 layers. That's why it's called bilayer. So it's got a phosphate head and the tail. See the phosphate head and the tail. So the tails are facing each other. Out here, you can see, let's see if I magnify this a little bit. Outside in this phosphate, the head part is hydrophilic. Hydrophilic means they like water, and hydrophobic, like a phobia, they do not like water in the center here. Okay, just remember that. So the head is the hydrophilic, they like water. Inside here, it repels water, and again here is the head, so it will like water. So as I told you last time, the outside of the cell, so we're going to assume that this is the outside, and underneath here is the inside of the cell. The outside of the cell is called extracellular. Inside of the cell right here in this part will be intracellular, where all the organelles are, the little organs we're going to talk about later in this chapter. So the inside, the solution outside is different from the solution on the inside. That's why there's a lipid bilayer, because let's say you go swim, in the pool, and everything is absorbed, and then all your body content goes out, you're going to swell up. Okay, that's why there's all the cells are protected. Your skin is protecting you from absorbing things, only whatever it is necessary. Membrane are self-seal. If it's damaged, the cell will die. So there's something called selective permeability. Again, it will only allow certain things to come in or certain things to go out. Again, there's phospholipid bilayer. Phospholipid bilayer, there's a polar end and a non-polar end. And it's made of cholesterol. Up here, there's carbohydrate. There's protein, receptors that allow certain things to come in, only like bigger things. Okay. Anything polar, remember polar, it has a charge, a positive and a negative charge. If it gets to here, okay, it will repel it. Okay, but non-polar things can go right through. Okay, I'm going to talk about some of those. So again, here's a depiction of the phospholipid bilayer. Okay, here are some small uncharged molecule. Again, outside here is the outside, which is the extracellular part. Inside is the intracellular part. Here is the uncharged particle, so it doesn't have a charge, so it will slowly get through the lipid bilayer, come through here. This is the time, and resulting in random molecule movement. Okay, depending on the time and the temperature, it affects it as well. So when it goes through the cell membrane like that, so it's just absorbing it. Okay, there's no energy required, so it's just called a passive movement. Okay, it goes from a high concentration area to a low concentration area. Okay, for example, this one here we're going to study extensively in AP2. When a cell, it usually uses oxygen to metabolize and to produce energy, it makes CO2. So the amount of CO2 inside of the cell is much higher, and as it uses up oxygen, the concentration of the oxygen is lower. Okay, so it will diffuse the carbon dioxide out from high concentration to fresh blood. Fresh blood has high oxygen and low carbon dioxide. So the high concentration will go into the low concentration, and again, high concentration to low concentration. So it's the same as if somebody sprays some perfume. The concentration, if you spray it on your nose, is very strong, very high concentration. If you stand around the person in the immediate distance where they spray, you will feel very strong. But as it diffuses out from high concentration to low concentration, and it will slowly diffuse out. Again, it depends on time and temperature as well. So here are some channels that specifically for, if you remember seeing these, they're different channels, they have different shape, it's for different things to go through. So these are specific carrier or channels. We call them facilitated diffusion. Small things like lipid, we saw oxygen and carbon dioxide will go through without any problem. Bigger things like glucose, amino acid, electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, they are repelled by this end, the hydrophobic tail. It's repelled. So in order for those sugar, which is glucose, amino acid, and sodium and potassium to come in, it needs to go through channels. Okay, again, passive transport. Passive, again, is passive transport is where there's no energy required to go through. And active transport, as we're going to look through it in the later on in the slides, it will require energy, and I'll show it to you. So here we're going to go through look through osmosis. So some of you have already learned, you guys already talked about what diffusion is, like high concentration to low concentration, is always, okay? Now osmosis, it's similar, but it's not, okay? That's why there's a different term. Osmosis is only the diffusion of water, okay, across a selective permeable membrane, okay? Again, same thing with high concentration to low concentration, but again, only water. Okay, so here the red line is depicting depicting a permeable membrane. Okay, and the pink things are water, and here are, we call it the solvent, and here we have a solute, which is, for example, salt. Okay, so on this side there's a lot of salt. On this side it's not so salty. So where does water go? Water will go from the, it will go from the less salty side to the saltier side to make it homeostasis, kind of. Okay, so to make it balance, okay, we call this term isotonic. We're going to look through it here as well. Where did it go? Okay, so it wants to go, it wants to become the same. Okay, so it's called isotonic. And oh, here it is. So homeostasis of water diffusion, okay, again, it is called osmosis. Okay, so in this picture, you see some blood cells, red blood cells. Okay, it looks dried up like a raisin because all the water is drawn out. So in this case, it would be like this. All the water is drawn out. Okay, so in this case, we call this hypertonic. Isotonic, where everything looks good, water is going in as water is going out. So everything is in homeostasis. We call this isotonic. Now here is hypotonic, where water is now rushing in. So the content of the red blood cell has higher salt concentration in this case. So then the water will rush in. Okay, so it will swell and eventually the cell will pop unless it reaches isotonic, but then again it's too swollen. Okay, so to remember that, osmosis is the movement of water across a selective membrane. Okay, so because not everything can move through, only water in this case. So whenever we look at filtration, okay, water and go through a filter, okay, drip, 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 okay, it is still passive, which means there's no energy, right? It just moves through. So because there's, oh, here's a better picture, okay. Let's say there's a hose with, like a soaker hose. It's got holes in between, in the hole, like in the walls of the hose. When the water is pushed through, the pressure will cause things to go